Today we're diving into one of the great classic horror tales, E.T.A. Hoffmann's The Sandman. But trust me, this is way more than just a scary story. It's actually a fascinating window into German Romanticism, this massive cultural movement that was all about celebrating the strange, the fantastic, and the absolutely terrifying power of the human mind.
So think back to when you were a kid. Did you have a monster in the closet or some creature under the bed? A story your parents told you just to get you to go to sleep? Well, this story takes that universal fear and asks a really simple but terrifying question. What if that thing you were so scared of was actually real?
All right, first up, we've got to understand the myth that's right at the heart of this tale. The title itself, The Sandman, comes from a figure in European folklore. But what Hoffmann does is he takes this kind of innocent character and twists it into something truly monstrous.
So in most versions of the myth, the Sandman is a pretty harmless guy who just helps kids drift off to sleep. But in Hoffmann's story, oh no. He's a horrifying creature who doesn't just throw sand in your eyes, he comes to steal them, to literally pluck them right out of your head.
And you can see how this is more than just a harmless scare tactic. It's practically a recipe for psychological damage. The threat targets our most precious sense, our sight. And when a kid hears that over and over, it can create this deep, lasting trauma. It basically teaches them that if you do something wrong, a monster will come and mutilate you. That can shape an entire personality built on pure fear.
So how does this actually play out in the story? Well, this deep-seated trauma is the engine that drives our main character, a young man whose entire life has been completely warped by this childhood boogeyman.
Meet Nathaniel. He is a classic romantic figure, brilliant, artistic, a really talented poet. But he's also deeply unstable, haunted by his past, and he gets to a point where he just can't distinguish between what's real and what's a phantom that his own mind has created.
See, Nathaniel's mind is basically fractured by two huge events. First, there's that constant terror of the Sandman story he was told as a kid. And second, there's the night he hid and watched his father die in this mysterious lab explosion, alongside a menacing man he comes to believe is the Sandman. These two traumas just fuse together in his mind, creating this obsession that follows him right into adulthood.
And this brings us right to the story's central conflict, which really plays out in the relationship between Nathaniel and his fiancée Clara. He's living in this world of dark imagination and terrifying signs. She, on the other hand, is the voice of reason. She's always trying to calm him down and offer logical explanations for his fears. He represents wild fantasy, she represents rational thought.
Now here's the crucial point. This battle going on inside Nathaniel's head between his dark imagination and Clara's calm logic, it wasn't just a personal struggle. It was a perfect reflection of a massive cultural war that was raging all across Europe at the time.
You see, for hundreds of years, during a period we now call the Enlightenment, Western thought was pretty much dominated by a single, all-powerful ideal. And that ideal was reason, logic, science, order, the power of the rational mind. This was seen as the only path to progress and to truth. But artists and thinkers started to push back against this kind of cold, calculated view of the world. They felt like something essential was missing, and they started to champion a force that was much more chaotic, personal, and way more powerful.
And that force was imagination. This was the dawn of Romanticism, a movement that turned inward and celebrated the incredible power of individual imagination, emotion, and just subjectivity.
Romanticism was completely fascinated with everything that reason couldn't really explain. Dreams, nightmares, the supernatural, madness. It loved exploring the fantastic, the weird, and the strange. And Nathaniel, with his haunted mind, is a perfect product of this new obsession.
The Romantic artist, well, they kind of saw themselves as the center of their own universe. They were obsessed with their inner lives, often feeling like outsiders, with these fragmented, split personalities. They dove headfirst into the dark side of the mind, exploring madness, delusion, and horror. Does that sound like anyone we know?
Okay, so to truly get Romanticism and The Sandman, we have to unpack the story's most important symbol, and it's hiding in plain sight, the eyes. This story is absolutely obsessed with eyes, and it uses the word in a few brilliant ways. First, you've got physical eyes, right? Our window to the world and the main target of the Sandman's horror. Then you have the I, as in the ego. The Romantic author is all about I.
Then spectacles show up as these tools that prove reality is subjective. They can make things clear, or they can totally distort them. But the most important one is vision.
And this right here gets to the core belief of the Romantics, the massive difference between just seeing and having vision. See, anyone can see the physical world. That's just a biological process. But the true artist, they believed, had a special, privileged vision, an ability to perceive deeper, hidden truths that ordinary people just miss. It was an exclusive gift.
So what's the ultimate takeaway from all this? What is Hoffmann really trying to tell us about our own minds? Well, the conclusion is both incredibly profound and, honestly, deeply unsettling.
For the Romantics, objective reality was, well, it was ultimately strange and you could never fully grasp it. The artists couldn't capture it perfectly. The absolute best they could do was hold up a mirror and show a dim, distorted, and often bizarre reflection of the world, filtered through their own unique and powerful imagination.
Ultimately, what the story is suggesting is that the world isn't something we just passively observe. We actively create it. Our perceptions, our fears, our imagination, those are the building blocks of our reality. And for someone like Nathaniel, a mind that's been poisoned by trauma can build a world that is a living nightmare.
And that leaves us with a timeless question. If our imagination is powerful enough to create entire realities, who's to say it can't also create monsters we can't control? Hoffmann wrote this story over 200 years ago, but the question of whether we are the masters of our own minds or just haunted by their phantoms, well, that's as relevant today as it ever was.